Hello and welcome to another episode of Billy Watson TV. Today I have the great pleasure to introduce a fantastic songwriter who has worked with Morrisey, Kirsty McCall, and made an album with Brian Kennedy under the name Sweet Mouth. He is best known for being in the band Fairground Attraction, who recently got back together after 35 years to make a new album called Beautiful Happening. He has also released albums under his own name. So I'd like to give a big welcome to Mark Nevin. It's great to have you on the show.
Well, hello everyone and welcome to Billy Watson TV. As the intro said there, I've got a great guest today. I'm very delighted to have on the original songwriter from a fantabulous group, Fairground Attraction, and he's had many albums of his own name. Welcome to the show, Mark Nevin. How are you doing today?
Well, it's a great pleasure, Billy. And what a fantastic intro. I've never experienced anything like it. It's like Sunday night at the London Palladium.
Yeah, some guests are quite impressed with that, but then we start talking about AI, and a lot of my guests don't like AI, but I use it for that. It can be interesting. Yeah, there's like I interview a guy a few times called Music Conspiracy Guru, Conspiracy Music Guru.
Yeah.
And he makes music, and he's kind of threatened by this AI technology. I mean, he's impressed by it, but says it's like it can put him out of a job, really, because it's like plagiarizes, the whole of the internet. I just put in a few words and then that song pops up and you choose your genre,
Okay, well, it's interesting because, I mean, that's actually my new single, which I've got coming out in 2 weeks, which is called I'm Not a Robot, is about this very subject. So it's a perfect introduction there because, I like your friend there, Music Conspiracy Guy, I mean, most musicians are sort of concerned about what all this means, and it's very sort of unsettling. You think, what on earth is going to happen? And as I was having this conversation with Roland Phelan, who's an engineer who's been mixing my stuff, and he mixed the Fairground Attraction album last year, and I was saying, oh dear, it's a bit worrying, isn't it? And he's like, oh, it's Irish. He said, it doesn't worry me. It's a bit like when drum machines came out, or string machines, and all of these things. Everyone thought it was the end of the world, but we just learned to use them as another tool. And I went, yeah, you're right. And I sat down, I wrote this song, I'm Not a Robot. A robot can't do the things that I can, And so, yeah, it is worrying. And who knows what's going to happen? Who knows? It's also, everything's up in the air. But you got to keep smiling, because if you don't, it's too grim.
That's right. I noticed that this morning because a part of what attracts me to your music is the very much songwriting, and there's little jewels in there you can take away. Like as Eddie Reader said, I think she wanted songs with meat on the bones, kind of thing. Excuse me, I knew that was going to happen. At my door. Give me 2 seconds.
I'll just hold the fort here, Billy. There's Billy. He's not a robot. So this is evidence that he's a real person, because a robot never would do that.
Basically, I think it's my postman, because I was just talking to you before we came on there. I order CDs quite a lot, and I still like the physical product, so I've not went fully digital. People call me a dinosaur because I'm not on Spotify and stuff like that.
Oh, good.
So that's a CD arriving through my door there. I like, a little surprise, but basically I've got too many. I've got not enough hours in the day to play them all. Well, but Spotify, you could be there for forever as well. So exactly. It's just my version of Spotify. But yeah, sorry, I was talking about the song I Am a Robot. I noticed that this morning you basically promoted it a wee bit. You got it for pre-sale. And I was just wondering what the lyrics were. What was your angle coming from for that? Because about this AI stuff.
So I was saying, I can play a bit of it too if you want.
That'd be cool, yeah, definitely.
So, I'll just play the first bit, and it gives you a sort of general vibe. Does that sound alright, yeah? I'm not a robot. I am a man. A robot can't do the things that I can. So I will not fall into gloom that comes when you listen to prophets of doom. Since I remember, the end it was nigh. The bomb was coming and we were all going to die. But my daddy said, boy, keep your chin up high. There's nothing new under the sun, and you got no reason to cry. So that's the line. I mean, you know, when I was a kid, it was always the Cold War. Oh, the bomb's going to come and everyone's going to die. And it's always this living in this state of terror that something awful's going to happen. And it's always been like that. It's just a different sort of thing that we're meant to be scared of. And AI is the current thing. And, fear is the enemy. And I just won't give in to it.
Well, that's one of your songs was going to be a Fairground Attraction song, but then it became a Sweet Mouse song.
Fear is the enemy of love. Yeah, well, originally it was a Fairground Attraction song. It would have been on the second album, but when we broke up, I recorded it with Brian in Sweet Mouth, and we actually played it on the Encores last year with Fairground. So,
when you went to Japan, did you play it in the UK tour as well?
Did we play it here? I think we did.
Right. I was at the concerts as well. I actually loved. I never thought I'd get the chance to see Fairground Attraction. I'd seen Eddie Reader twice. Actually met her for a CD signing after one of them. But yeah, it was amazing to see the band back together. I'm sure you got an amazing. Well, I've got some video. We're just watching a wee clip, and the reception you got at the end was, people loved it. Just to get us back in the room together.
Yeah, it's very magical. Particularly the first show we did, which was in Tokyo, was just utterly surreal. Really, you were kind of walking on stage. I thought, is this actually happening, or is this one of those weird dreams? So, we're all back together after not being in the same room for 35 years, and we're walking on a stage, and we did the first song, and everyone was weeping, and it was so weird.
Yeah, because I was watching some of your videos in preparation for this, and I heard you chat in one of the interviews that you were doing some gigs as yourself for the first time, and you actually had the other two members of Fairground Attraction with you on the stage. Is that right? You had Roy.
When was this?
When you done, I think it was Mike Oldfield's gig.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that was years ago. That was so weird, because when the band broke up, I'd never, ever thought I could or even wanted to sing the songs myself, because I never regarded myself as a singer. I was a songwriter. And, I had Eddie, which is like the best female singer this country has ever had, So the idea that I would sing my songs was bonkers. But I just realized that it's kind of what I had to do. And I was booked in these gigs. One of them being supporting Mike Oldfield at Wembley Arena. I've never sung in a pub before.
A bit daunting.
We turned up at Wembley Arena, and it's like there's Mike Oldfield with special guest Mark Nevin. I'm like, what? So I was on the stage, and that was with Simon and Roy and Roger. So it was kind of basically with Fairground, with me singing, supporting Mike Oldfield. I don't know how many people, 10,000 people there, I don't know how many, but it was surreal.
Was that the only kind of time you'd done that with them then?
With what, Mike Oldfield?
No, with the other guys from Fairground Attraction.
After the band broke up, I did lots of different things over the years. Roy played on lots of things originally and then Roy was doing other things, and then Simon played on most of my solo albums.
Right, so you stayed in touch with the rest of the band, just you and Eddie had the split, really?
It was Eddie and me that we kind of fell out badly back then, and I did go to Los Angeles to work on a second solo album.
Right.
And Roy came to do that. We were there for a month at Ocean Way Studios, which was an amazing experience because everybody was in that studio. Bonnie Raitt was there, Elton John, Barry White.
Oh my God.
Katie Lang. I met... I was in the studio there the day we left, and we were watching this huge choir recording backing vocals on a song as for Elton John's album. with Katie Lang doing a duet. Katie Lang was there in the control room, and I turned around and I looked and I thought, that can't be true. I turned around and I said to Roy, look, he went, I know. Little Richard was sitting.
Oh my God!
Yeah, yeah. What? Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. I love Little Richard.
Yeah.
I love, he's fantastic, very flamboyant, and the king of rock and roll, as he pointed out on numerous occasions.
Paul McCartney. Oh, that's all Little Richard. And
Yeah.
he actually signed me a little book. I can't remember what it was, like a sort of religious book, and he gave it to me and signed it. And I lost it.
Oh God!
Can you believe it?
That's pretty sad because he was into preaching at that time, was he?
Yeah, yeah.
Aye. Yeah, what a character he was. There's not been any more built in his mould, basically.
Yeah, it's incredible.
So I've heard you drop some names, but I don't think you'll beat that one.
No, well, it was just so weird. I thought at the time I didn't even know he was still alive. So it was kind of like, what?
Aye, that's incredible. So you actually patched up a wee bit then, but not enough to actually want to get the band back together.
Well, that was an interesting time because in the fallout of the band originally, we both went off and had amazing things happening. Eddie was still doing her solo thing, and I was working with Morrisey and Kirsty McCall, and it didn't seem like the right thing to do, getting the band together at that stage. But it was good to do those songs on the album. But even that, it didn't really. There's a producer that we didn't like in the middle of it that kind of made it difficult. There's always something, and so it was never right really to get the band back together.
Was it your songs, or was she just drafting you in for
playing?
No,
the idea was it was going to be all my songs and Eddie's singing it, and then and this producer called Greg Penny, who produced Katie Lang. And a lot of Katie Lang's band were on it, Teddy Burowicki and David Pilch, and they were and Roy on drums, and that was that Eddie Reader album, the second one, and it was going to be all my songs, but the producer wanted to use like click tracks, because if you listen to the Katie Lang album, it's very sort of square and digital, and I couldn't stand that, I wanted it to be organic and flow and ebb and flow, real music, and so we were at odds, and one of the songs we tried to record at that stage was Kite Flyers Hill, which became a real sort of popular song in Eddie's set in the years to come. But he kind of like put this square click on it and took all the feel out of it. So and he kind of was the problem at that stage. I think if it had just been Eddie and I, we probably could have made a better go of it.
Again, that's the technology kind of sticking its nose in. Because I heard you talk, you also say that you like to record as a band. Like, for instance, a new album, you made these songs in 5 days or something, recorded it quite quickly, and it sounded very organic. And I love the fact that when I'm listening to it now, I know that you're all in the same room playing it, and there's nothing added to it, because a lot of these, basically in the 80s or whatever, there's lots of production and stuff. And there's like, you get the original song, but then it becomes a product, and to make it that product, to do lots of stuff to it, maybe kills the soul of the song a little bit.
Well, absolutely, and that's how we were born out at that moment in musical history when things were really going that way with Depeche Mode and Pet Shop Boys and all those bands, which fine, and everything, but it was not what Eddie and I or Simon and Roy were interested in. We were interested in real musicians and real performance and real songs, and we were so at odds with the shift in music at that time, and I think that's what was really good for us, because lots of people felt the same and they wanted to hear a real singer singing a real song played by real people, which is what we did. And so coming back to it this time, it was important that we kept that ethos central to what we did.
I can remember I was 17 when the album came out, and I used to be in like this music club. I don't know if you remember, I used to get this wee magazine. You had to choose 3 albums.
Oh yeah, I remember.
So I had like Eurythmics and various other ones, Beastie Boys or whatever, stuff like that. And I can remember getting that. Obviously, Perfect was a big hit at the time, and I liked Perfect, so I ordered the album, the vinyl album, and then Perfect. I wouldn't say I didn't like it, but it became one of the lesser songs that I preferred from you guys, because the other songs in the album was like, wow, just again this kind of acoustic and the feel for it. You know, the Moon Is Mine and Hallelujah, I loved especially. In fact, when I went to see Eddie Reader twice and she never played it, I was shouting Hallelujah, Hallelujah. So I was really pleased when you just got back together and we could finally hear that live. And
Yeah.
I went to see Usher Hall. I've got a wee clip. I don't know if you want me to play it, but it's just when Eddie, she got very emotional at the end and started crying.
I saw that on your TikTok. Yeah, I saw it.
Yeah, that was just when the music takes over the artist kind of thing, and
Yeah.
you could almost see the history of the band and everything that happened in all those years kind of coming out in that moment. It's a very special moment, that.
Well, that song was when I wrote that song, it was in 1987, just as we were about to sign our record deal. And the inspiration came from, I saw sort of Stevie Wonder, also at Wembley Arena. I saw Stevie Wonder and I thought, wow, it sounds like every word he sings, it sounds like he's praying, because it sounded so enchanted. And I went home and I was living in this place on White City Council Estate. It was a squat, a 6th floor, that overlooked Westway flyover, which is the road that comes out of west of London, all the main traffic. And it was a rush hour, and I remember seeing all these lights coming and going, the red and the white tail lights and headlights of cars going in and out of London in the rush hour. And that was the view from my bedroom. So the lights on the Westway go on, and a million cars hurry home.
Right.
Screen van shuts off his tinsel bells, winter won't be long, because it was like it was around October, around the time I wrote it. And they had that huge hurricane came at that time, if you remember that, and it was like absolute, wheelie bins were being thrown over and windows were being smashed and trees were being knocked down. It was insane. And that song was written then, and it was just as we signed the record deal. So
Right.
that particular song for us, it captures a moment in our history.
So yeah, it was obviously a great song for the album. I think it's the last song on the album, maybe.
Well, it was, and it's where the title comes from. It's the nearest thing to the title track, and because it contains the line, the first of a million pieces,
Yeah. So that gave you obviously. So the song came first, and then the album title, obviously.
Yeah, it's just I thought, wow, what a great title for a first album. The first.
Yeah. Something just popped in my head there. That image as well that's on the cover.
Yeah.
That's a particular photographer. Did they have that picture made already, and then you decided to use that on the album?
Yeah, it's a picture by Elliot Erwitt, who is an American photographer, and we'd seen that picture. He was Lawrence Stevens, our artwork guy, saw that picture, and obviously it fitted exactly with the lyric "First of a Million Kisses," and I think it was a very important part of why the album was so popular, because I think people loved that image, and with the title.
Yeah.
It's like, oh God, I want to kiss the first of all. I want to kiss that girl in the front. And we actually met Elliot Erwitt a few years afterwards, because he came to England, and he had an exhibition, and he used that picture on the cover of his book.
Right.
We met him, and he said, "Oh man, I did. Thank you so much for using my picture on your record." He said, "I did a record." I did a record on purpose once, and he said to his assistants, "Hey, what was the name of that band I did that record cover for?" She went, "Oh, Led Zeppelin." Oh,
Right.
God, that's right. He's forgotten that he'd done it.
God, was that Houses of the Holy? Was it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
They went. I was at that. What do you call it? Giant's Causeway. That's where it was done. Yeah, I was there last year.
No, it wasn't the House of the Holy. It was the one with the. It's the one with the window.
Well, that's it. 4.
Is it Physical Graffiti?
Oh, right, Physical Graffiti. Right, okay.
I'm not exactly sure. I think it was physical. I thought it was the one with the windows in it. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
That's Physical Graffiti. Yeah, the House of the Holy is the young girls on Giant's Causeway.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah,
Controversial.
It might have been that one. I don't. That's not really his style, though. The other one is. It's more sort of black and white photojournalist sort of to it.
Yeah, I don't know much about him, but I know he's quite highly regarded. But yeah, I think you're doing yourself a disservice, though. I think definitely the music on the album was deservedly making you. You said it was quite like hitting the lottery. I think Eddie said in the BBC show you done when you got interviewed. You went from like playing the bars, or whatever, got this record deal, perfect hit, and then all of a sudden, boom, you're everywhere.
Yeah, it was exciting, and it was unsettling, and it's kind of was a problem for us in that we didn't know how to adjust to this dramatic change in our life. There was no one. You can't explain what it's like going through something like that. It's mad, really.
Yeah. So how did you get the record deal, and how did that come about? Did somebody just see you in a bar and offer you a deal, or?
No, it was oh god, I tell you the very first how Eddie and I met. Really, it is such a weird story. I was playing in a band called Gina and the Tonics, and it was just a sort of covers band. We were doing like soul and Motown things, and anyway, we played in a bar in Tottenham, in Tooting, South London. And nobody came to this gig, and the bouncers were these really sort of thug guys, real nasty pieces of work. I mean, they attacked the band.
Oh my god!
Like, really attacked the band, like baseball bats. It was utterly terrifying.
Oh my
we
god!
were in the car park, and we were trapped. And the drummer got his rib broken. His drummer's girlfriend got her nose broken. It was an absolute massacre. And we had these two backing singers called Debbie and Shirley, and they were the Kinks. They were the backing singers for the Kinks, and they also sung on Video Kills the Radio Star.
All right.
And they said, we don't want to be in this band anymore. It's like meant to be fun. This is horrific, which is kind of
Were you that bad? The bouncers decided to attack you?
Well, yeah, but it kind of like it was just a very depressing, horrible experience. Anyway, we had a gig a few days later and had no backing singers, and so I knew Anthony Thistlethwaite, who was the sax player in the Waterboys.
Right.
And I said, do you know a backing any singers? He said, I know this girl called Eddie. She sung with the Waterboys. I said, give me a number. So anyway, Eddie turns up at this pub in Leighton in East London, and that was how I met her. And she came and did backing vocals for this gig, and we kept in touch, and she sung on 2 songs that I did under the name of the Academy of Fine Popular Music for Compact and Independent. That was the first thing I ever did, and Eddie was the singer on that. And then we kept in touch, and I was starting to write this new kind of song, that very, very much came out of reading short stories.
There's the guy William Sorian you mentioned.
Yeah, William Sorian. Yeah, just a short story writer that I discovered, and I loved his short stories, and they're a bit like biblical parables or something. And so I started to write songs. I thought, I'm going to write songs like make a book of short stories. Like, that's what I want to do. Like, where each song is like a story narrated by this beautiful female voice, and that was what I was trying to do. And so Eddie at the time was singing backing vocals with Alison Moyet and all doing lots of sessions and stuff, and wanting to sort of break out of being a backing singer. So we had sort of quite. We needed each other, but although we had a slightly different idea, she really wanted to be a solo artist at that stage, and I wanted her to be in the group, and that was a matter of contention, going back and forth, this sort of power struggle. And eventually we did these demos, which was like 7 songs, which all ended up on the album, like Comedy Waltz, Claire, Fairground Attraction, Smile in a Whisper, with Simon and Roy, who were from Bristol, like I was. And it had this sound to it, and it was a unique sound. It was like, this doesn't sound like anything else, partly because of the guitar on the Mexican bass, which gave it a very unusual flavour. But all of our talents came together and created this very beautiful, poetic sort of book of musical short stories, is the way I understood it. And so I took the tape around. We didn't have a manager because we were so unfashionable. We didn't really regard ourselves as a part of the mainstream music world that was kind of going on, and we were sort of like, it was almost as though we used to play at the alternative cabaret scene.
Yeah.
It was almost like that rather than pop music. So I took the tape around, and people were a bit unsure about how it was going to fit in, and Phonogram wanted to sign us, and so we were about to sign with Phonogram. And I said, don't want any producers coming in and putting drum boxes on it and stuff. And just before we signed, the A&R man said something like, I was thinking about this producer. And I thought, hold on, I don't like the sound of that. He's gonna make us have a producer. So I said to RCA, look, if you promise that when we sign, we'll be allowed to do it ourselves, we'll sign with you. So he said, yeah, okay. So we didn't go to the meeting with Phonogram where they were weighing with the champagne in the photographer.
Right.
Sign us, we just didn't turn up.
Right.
So it was a long old day, and then in the evening of it's actually October the 9th, which is exactly 38 years ago yesterday,
Yeah.
we signed to RCA, and they let us produce the record without a big producer interfering.
So this was without a manager.
No, I did all the managing. I sort of did everything, really. I kind of would motivate the whole thing.
Yeah. And
And
did you look at that record contract, the both of them? Did you look at the other one as well, the phonogram one, quite intently? Because I believe a lot of these artists kind of sign a record contract and they don't know exactly what they're signing. Just like give me the bit of paper.
well, we had a lawyer, although that ended up weird because we actually ended up suing the lawyer that we had.
Right.
Yeah, but the deal was okay. Or the only thing about the deal that wasn't okay was the fact that it never run out.
Right.
Usually deals they go for like 25 years, and then after that you get your record back, which would have been brilliant if 10 years ago we'd got the rights to First of a Million Kisses back, but we didn't, and we never will because it's
Oh dear.
maturity. It belongs to RCA.
That's not good.
But hey ho, we still get paid from that to this day.
Right. So you still got a cut in it, but basically you can't. They want to use that record to sell it to movies, adverts. You've got no real say in it.
Yeah, well, we get we get paid when that happens. So it's not
Yeah.
like we got completely ripped off or anything. It's just that had our lawyer been better, he would have made sure that there was a cut-off date, because it's a big day in an artist's life when they get the rights to their stuff back, because then you can market it yourself and take 100% instead of 10%.
Yeah, it's a big difference. Does it still sell quite well, especially when you came back with the second album?
Well, I don't know if it sells well. I mean, I don't think anything sells well
It's true.
anymore because it's on Spotify. So, like everyone, you get sort of dust off the hate. You don't really make
Yeah.
any money from selling records anymore.
Yeah, this is a crying shame. What do you think about this way the whole record industry's went? Because obviously with downloading, and there was a big deal when Napster came out, and I think it was Metallica or someone tried to lawsuit it, and then everyone called them names for almost standing up for the artist's rights.
Yeah.
Now it seems like musicians are, it's not the product they spend a year to make, they make money from. They've then got to promote that and then go on tour and make some money trying to tour, which is difficult as well.
Yeah, it's very difficult. I don't know how people are going to fare under this situation, but I don't really know what you do about it. Simply because if you think about when the first album came out, the first long-playing record was by Frank Sinatra.
Right.
And in that year, there was one record in the whole world.
Right.
And next year, I don't know, Tony Bennett or somebody else did one, and there's two albums. And that is just split and split. And now there's like, as I'm speaking to you, 50 albums have been released on Spotify. So
Yeah.
it's just less and less valuable as a recorded music, because there's just so much of it.
Yeah.
So in a way we could blame Spotify, but in a way you can't. It's just kind of evolution, and we were just at this moment, and I'm really grateful that we had our 15 minutes at the end of the 80s, when it was probably the best time to have a record deal, because CDs, ours was one of the first record on a CD, was $16.99. So now there are tenner or something. Do you know what I mean? So at $16.99 in 1988 was a lot of money. So.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just obviously, there's like these songs from that era still get played a lot because everyone's consciousness is aware of them. The 80s and 90s. As soon as it got hit the 2000s, I think with the internet and it started to diversify, and you get all these different genres, and then so you don't have these big popular hits. I guess there maybe still a chart with Beyonce or whoever on it these days, but nobody gives it much credence. So I guess it's up to the artists then to go and find their audience now. And I guess they've used YouTube, and so they almost have to give away their stuff. I think Franz Ferdinand were the first band to say you can download the album for free.
Yeah.
And then that kind of made their name, and they went on from there. So it's kind of the way it's kind of the whole industry is turned. You used to get one or two songs on the radio and then sell the album in the back of it. Now the whole album's online.
Yeah, it's completely different. It's like, like now I make records. I do it it's purely an act of love, because you can't even make back the money that you spent on recording them.
Yeah.
And my attitude to it. So I remember when that first started become apparent that that's the way that things go. And I'm thinking, oh, it's a nightmare. It's an absolute nightmare. It's the end of the world. But it's like grocers giving their groceries away free. It's like, they can't do that. That's their income. And so, in a way, it was horrific, and it is horrific. But you can't stop it. You just got to adapt. And the way that I adapted my attitude was like, okay, I'm going to do what I've always done, which is to write music and make music because I love it, and I love it. And I make these records, and I put a lot of work into it, making a video and doing the artwork and doing everything. And it cost me money in the end to do it. But the way I see it, and the way it's my attitude to life, is that if you have an attitude like this, like if you hold your hands like that in a kind of position of passive receptivity, you just do the best you can, and the Lord will provide, as my mum used to. The Lord will provide, my mum used to say. If you have that attitude and you're just kind of like grateful and have a receptive attitude, you'll be okay, one way or another, in ways you can't foresee. But if you have a kind of like what they call a scarcity mindset, where you're trying to grab everything and give me this and give me that, it's like grabbing wet soap and it flies across the room and you'll end up with nothing, So it's always about having this attitude of, I will do my best and be grateful for what I get, however that may be. And that way I just carry on, and my life's been great, and I would never complain, and I get to make music ongoing. That's what I continue to do.
Yeah, I mean, I like listening to you talk in various other interviews. You talk about the songs coming like mushrooms in the garden and stuff. You can't force them to grow, and you're just the antenna. You're constantly listening for stuff, and then the more you write, the more it comes, and it's just like a channel. You're just a conduit for the music, and then that will have its rewards because you've done the work to polish it into gold, kind of thing. So,
yeah, absolutely. That's exactly the way I see it. It's like I'm so grateful for everything, and I continue to be, and that's just the work.
I'm actually, obviously we actually started connecting because on TikTok, I think you commented on. I think I shared a Fairground Attraction song, and you commented on it, or then we started talking about Sparks a little bit, and then I've kind of discovered that you've made these albums in the intervening years, and I'm like, I didn't know. I knew you were the songwriter back then, but I didn't follow your solo career, so I'm totally unaware of what you've been up to. And now I'm like, oh, great, I've got these 6-7 albums that you've made that I'm going to love digging into, because the new Fairground Attraction album I love as well. There's some great songs on there. And I think you're a fantastic songwriter. And the way you write songs as well, it's almost like a folk element, like very much people orientated. And you've got a great way with words, and you can put. I like lyrics, and so I'm really looking forward to going into your back catalogue. Probably I'll pick up on eBay and you'll not get paid for it, but
Yeah. Well, no, I just want the songs to go out there into the world, and like I say, things will be fine. Above my computer here, I've got like an old embroidered, like this thing that grannies used to do. It just says, "Give us this day our daily bread." That's it, daily bread. That's enough, and everything else is a bonus, and should be grateful for a jam on it.
Yeah, because a part of I listen to you talk as well. There's enough negativity in the world, so your songs always have a kind of almost sometimes a kind of pathos. It's like there's some misery there, but it's hope through the misery. But you're always kind of trying to be a positive outlook in the song to make people feel good, really, rather than bring them down. Even though you've worked with Morrisey, some people might say he's every day is like Sunday, but that's what you do in your songs as well. They're uplifting and almost cathartic. Some of them.
That's the way. It's so. I don't like that sort of doom music. I think, well, anyone could do that. Everyone's got their own problems. They don't yours as well. You know what I mean?
I was raised on country music, so I do like quite a lot of depressing music. But I find it cathartic sometimes to hear some of it.
Well,
like
I think it is.
I could cry, kind of thing,
I think it is that you say, oh God, that puts into words my experience. I think that's good, and I like some miserable music as well in that sort of way. I just think that I remember hearing Sting actually talking about how modern songs tend to not have a middle bit. And I've noticed this as well. They just sort of like a verse and a chorus and a verse and a chorus and they end. But always, I'm old school enough, as he is, we've got to have a middle section.
Yeah, a bridge kind of thing.
Yeah, and the middle section is the therapy. The middle, it's like the verse and the chorus are the sort of problem and the blah blah blah. But the middle bit's wet. But don't worry, it's gonna be okay. And there's plenty of fish in the sea or whatever, and you find that positive twist in it.
I never thought of it like that before, but yeah, I can see that. Yeah, I do like a good bridge. Goes the melody changes for that few lines.
Yeah,
Kind of takes you somewhere else, and then back to the to resolve it at the end and give you the chorus again.
and well, you get that good feeling then, don't you, of resolution? But it's got to go somewhere to come back to it. If it doesn't, it just sort of becomes modal.
So, who are your favourite songwriters, and who do you respect and admire?
Well, David Bowie was the starting place for me when I first saw David Bowie when I was about 13 at Bristol College.
Mark Bolan, you mentioned.
Well, yeah, I'm not. Well, Berlin.
No, Mark Bolan, nothing about Bolan. Mark Ronson, the guitar player. Mick Ronson, that's the one, yeah.
Yeah, Mick Ronson. He was like my guitar hero. I wanted to be like Mick. And then I got to meet him when I got involved with Morrisey's album. I suggested that he produced the Your Arsenal album. And so he came to our house and had a meeting with Morrisey in my front room, which was one of the weirdest experiences I've ever had. That your absolute guitar hero and Morrisey sitting on the same table.
And you say Morrissey was quite shy back then?
Well, yeah, he is quite shy, I think. I think he's an introvert and, like he observes the world from the corner. And
yeah.
But yeah, that was a very strange. So it was great. So David Bowie was the starting point, and then Paul McCartney and the Beatles and Ray Davies and the Kinks and Paul Simon I loved, and there's great songwriters. And I tell you who I was thinking the other day, because people say to me, "What do you listen to now, Mark?" And I think almost nothing.
Right.
I'll tell you what I think is the best song. I mean, almost nothing of new stuff. I mean, but the best song that I've heard for years is by the Divine Comedy. That song, what's it called? To the Rescue. Do you know this song?
I don't know. Is that one of the new ones?
I think it was on the last, not the recent album, the one before. To the Rescue. What a brilliant song! Oh, it's just stunning. Yeah,
I do like Divine Comedy. I was thinking about going to see them soon, but I've actually doing a comedy gig that night, so they're playing in Glasgow shortly. But yeah, he's wrote lots of great songs.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, I like it.
So yeah, that's interesting. And also, you're saying you're also, I guess, to make money in the meantime, because the record industry is not paying a lot out. You're a psychotherapist. You're a trained psychotherapist.
Well, I am. I don't do much anymore. I see a couple of 2 or 3 people, at the most at the moment. But you kind of partly because last year when we were got the band back together, I didn't take any new people on because I was so busy and I was just absolutely full on all year, and so I didn't take any new people on. And when it got to the beginning of this year, I thought, do I really want to take on loads more people, because it's a big commitment, because these people rely on you, and I thought, you know what, I just want to concentrate on doing my solo music this year. So I'm doing music much more than anything else this year. And I don't think I'll go back to being a therapist full time again. I like it. It's been a really interesting thing. But it's also quite similar to writing songs. It's the same sort of thing, because you're putting feelings into words, and you're understanding and making analogies and metaphors. So it's a very similar thing. So it's all sort of one thing to me.
So it's not like hypnotherapy where you would kind of put somebody in a trance and talk over them. What's a psychotherapist do compared to a psychiatrist? Psychiatrists can give drugs out.
Yeah, well, psychiatrists is a form of doctor. They give you drugs, basically.
Yeah.
You might say they're very sort of a legal drug dealer.
Yeah.
Psychotherapist, it's like you talk to people. It's an art rather than a science. And
Can people be healed? Is this part of, like, do you think they go deeper into their problems and just regurgitate their problems, or how do you take them from wallowing in their misery, so to speak, to feeling better? And because the idea should be to use to stop working with them and you've cured them.
absolutely.
Where psychiatrists might want you to keep coming back to take the drugs, kind of thing.
Absolutely. I mean, really, it's based on, Freud had a theory of repetition compulsion, which is kind of like, the film Groundhog Day, when he just keeps doing the same thing over and over again. That we're all compelled to repeat our patterns.
Yeah.
And we do that in hope that this time there'll be a different outcome. But there never is. That's why people keep saying, I keep getting into the wrong relationship, or I keep doing this, or I just want to stop drinking, but I can't. They keep repeating the same problems. And if you don't, the reason why we do that is because somewhere deep down inside us, there's been some loss or some trauma or neglect that's not been uncovered. And so we keep trying to recreate. It's like having the same play, but with different actors playing the same characters. So if we remember the original trauma, we're not then, the compulsion to repeat goes. So that's why therapists will go, tell me about your childhood, and they'll talk about their childhood, and the therapist's job is to recognize patterns and sort of think that it's a bit similar to what you're talking about with your husband or wife, isn't it, there, where you keep said that happened. Oh yeah, I never thought of that before. And then you can go over the stuff. They can talk about these things that were traumatic and have been forgotten about, and then grieve it. And then when you grieve the initial loss or the original trauma, then you're not compelled to repeat. So that's why you go back. And what you don't want to do, as you say, you don't want to sit there and just dwell on it and blame people. That would be a really bad therapy. The thing is to remember, to grieve, and to move on.
You can change the mirror, but not the reflection.
Yeah.
So you've got to change the inside to get a different reflection.
Yeah. And often that is grieving. We'll find that people will go, oh, my dad left when I was 8 or something. But it was fine. It never really affected me.
Yeah.
And you go, well, that's a bit weird. Of course, it seems unlikely that it wouldn't affect you. But they don't want to say it because it'd be too upsetting to admit it. But if then they can go, actually, it did upset me. It was terrible when I think about it. And then maybe they'll cry and they'll grieve the loss. And then when they grieve the loss, they're not compelled to repeat the drama over and over again.
Yeah. I've done some work with a shaman in a group where we've done this thing called body electronics. It was over 2 weeks, and there's different pressure points were pushed. And basically, it says it was breaking down these stored memories on DNA crystals, the kind of thing. And you go through different stages of bringing unresolved shit up. So there's lots of wailing and screaming about ex-husbands and whatever like that. And yeah, it was a very healing process. And by the end of that 2 weeks, everyone was much lighter. And, there's a good community there because you're kind of going through this thing yourself. And I do think society in general, I mean, I've also done NLP with Richard Bandler.
Oh, yeah.
Where I was hypnotised, and we've done lots of hypnosis and stuff. And I was actually hypnotised myself. And you actually see, when you go through those two things, you can see how much shit people are carrying and how everyone's in their own kind of reality tunnel, and how we can choose what we think and feel rather than be a slave to this ego mind that's chattering away.
Yeah.
And making you do these habitual things. I mean, again, if you meditate a bit, you can see you're not the thought. There's a gap there. So you don't have to act on impulses and react instantly. You can choose how to react. So I just think society in general should be talking about these things and making it a focal point. Because, again, all these people going to pubs and drinking away and thinking they're having a great time, we're just burying stuff,
Yeah.
And it would be so much better going forward. People talk about, going to fight the government and fight this or that. We should be thinking of new ways to live.
Yeah.
And creating a new future instead of fighting, because that's, reactionary as well. But we get put in that fear system through the media and locked almost down,
Absolutely.
Whereas if we turned inward and helped each other and admitted there's all this shit going on, then we could move forward with lots more empathy and compassion, which seems to be missing a lot these days.
Totally. Yeah. I think that's it. You say it all comes down to like what's wrong with the world. That you just quoted that song, and that was inspired by a quote from G.K. Chesterton, where when in 1930s, whenever it was, he was around the London. The Times wrote a thing, "What's wrong with the world?" and what's G.K. Chesterton wrote a letter in response to your letter. What's wrong with the world? I am.
Right. Yes, I think people are always looking outward to blame others,
Yeah,
and they're not realizing they're the source of what you perceive and what you do every day. If you don't like your job, then maybe think about not going and doing something else in the background in the meantime till you can leave it and create a better choice for yourself instead of just bitching and hating and going round the circle.
yeah.
The Groundhog Day.
You're blaming the mirrors, as you say there. That's exactly it. I mean, we all do it, but I mean, if you think of the world as a giant mirror, and if you think wherever I go, I meet this sort of person, well, you're meeting yourself there, really. And then you go, okay, why does that happen to me? And then you can change, you can work on that and bring that to consciousness, and you'll find you'll meet different people then after that because the mirror changes because you've changed.
Yep. This is the thing that we don't get taught these kind of things. We don't get encouraged to be self-reflective, and there's that much noise with Netflix and all the rest of it and all the media and everything taking you outside yourself.
Yeah,
And even like you could say your soul or your spirit, we have these five senses, but we don't get taught about the heart or the gut feeling and listening to your intuition. I mean, I'm sure being a songwriter, you'll be going through your day and all of a sudden something will happen and you'll hear a phrase and just you've been trained to kind of pick up on that and write it down and follow that intuition.
yeah.
Where most people just walk straight past it and not see signs that are everywhere.
The world is full of songs. But how do you do it? You go, look, because the world is floating. There's songs everywhere. There's just like apples in an orchard. Just pick them off the tree. And often I find if I got a lyric and I'm a bit stuck on it or something, I'll just go for a walk with the dog, and then I won't even be thinking about the song. It will just come into my head like it's floating around the woods, which it is.
Yeah. So I used to do comedy a lot back in the day before I got barred from everywhere, and I filled up a whole notebook because I was noting things down, and then all of a sudden I've got this whole skite about football or whatever. So now I've got booked for a gig in a couple of weeks, and I'm walking around as I do a postman job. And just yesterday, because there's something I've got to do, I'm starting to I should write that down. There's something, and that's just how I used to write my comedy sets. I didn't sit down with a pen and paper. Right, I'm going to write comedy now. It was like listen to your internal dialogue. Oh, that's interesting. Just even a line that comes to your head, and then you can work backwards to get to that line or whatever. And you've got a wee bolt of inspiration, and you can work with that. It's almost like the subconscious or the brain tells you what you can use and not. So that's what I'll be doing for the next couple of weeks. Walking a notepad in my pocket. So when I'm doing the walking and stuff, listening to music, even just sometimes a thought will come. And yeah, that's basically
having that in the book, that gig that you've got coming up.
Yeah,
that gives you a great dynamic to work towards, doesn't it?
Totally, yeah.
You think, oh, I've got to work. So that dynamic's important.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
Working with Kirsty McCall when I first met her, she used to book the studio and all the studio musicians to do some demos. I said, what songs are we going to do? She said, I haven't written them yet. And she'd be just like, the nearer she got to the studio time, she would just...
It's almost like the brain's got to work. Fuck up, they know this is coming, so it's like just building up, and all of a sudden it'll just come out in a release.
Yeah,
because it's just waiting for that time. But
you need that trust, though. You see, but you don't. That's the thing is, people would go, "I'm not going to book that studio until I get all the songs," and it goes on forever. So people say, "Oh, I'm not going to get married until I can afford it." Well, you can never afford it. Just get married. You just got to take a leap of faith, and the Lord will provide, and that's the way it works.
Yeah, this is another thing about fear, false evidence appearing real, or whatever you want to call it. But basically, that's another paralysing thing for people, how their lives don't improve, because this idea, like children these days, they've got to get a helmet on if they're going to ride their bike, and we don't encourage children to climb trees. I used to climb trees all the way home from school and do some crazy stuff. But that's taking risks, and that's how you learn. Or you fall off a tree, you'll get hurt. We better be careful or whatever, But
But I
that's
got
the
sort of,
world.
we learn about falling by falling.
All right.
That's exactly that. We learn about falling by falling.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you know where your boundaries are and how far you can push things.
Yeah.
That's what life's all about. I mean, life without risk is very boring, I think.
Yeah.
And we're here to have experiences.
Young boys have to take risks,
Yeah.
They have to. It's a nanny in young boys is terrible, really bad.
Yeah, but this whole health and safety thing that's come into the world, and you've got these people with bloody, high vis and a fucking clipboard,
Yeah,
telling you what you can and can't do, and just it's for your safety. It's always for your safety.
yeah,
This authority, but it's limiting and restricting, and again, there's many things wrong with the world. We could sit here all day, but
yeah.
again, it comes to you taking the power back. I think people
Yeah,
need to
it's
take
having trust. It really comes down to faith, because that's what you're talking about here. Ultimately, faith in the broadest term, that you have to let go of. The Buddhists say fear and desire guard the gates to nirvana. That's the thing, is that if you're stuck in that position of fear or too much wanting something too much, you're never going to get there.
Yeah.
Just feel and walk through those gates.
Like when I started doing comedy, it was like I was paralysed. Not paralysed, I found myself forcing myself to do it, but then you're wanting a certain result, as you say, and then it doesn't go as you expect because you're too focused on the outcome.
Yeah.
And and then if it doesn't meet that expectation, then you feel like a failure, or you maybe died that night, And then for some reason you get called to do it again, and over the years you kind of get more used to it, and then you have more trust in the process. And then if I die, I die. Who cares? I'll go and enjoy it,
Yeah.
And then the audience can sense that energy in you because you don't give a shit. Whereas in the past, when you did give a shit, then things would go wrong.
I saw Leonard Cohen a few, just before he died. He played at O2 Arena, and there was a point he read a poem. It must have gone for about 6 minutes, this poem, and there's 100. How many people is in? Is there 100,000 people? I don't know. O2 is unbelievably a huge amount of people in that stadium, and he was reading a poem on his own.
Aye.
6 minutes, and there was complete and total silence. But because of his centeredness, he's just
I'm owning this. He's just owning it, so everyone was drawn into that.
Masterclass that was in that kind of what you're talking about.
I find it very unbelievably annoying these days when I go to gigs, and especially for the support act. The audience are so disrespectful. They'll just talk all the way through it. I've seen the guy Sean Hagan, I think, from used to be in the High Llamas.
Oh yeah,
and he was supporting Mercury Rev recently, and he stopped before his last song and says, "I'm actually pissed off because there's nobody listening to me, because there's a few folk in the front and other people are probably listening, but you just get these people that think they're more important. They've come to a gig that people have paid money to, but their voice is somehow more important."
It's very weird that people do that. They're having a full-on conversation,
Aye.
and there's like, why don't you just go outside?
Exactly. Fuck off. Give us peace. It's unbelievably annoying, and even when the headlines act's on as well, it can be like that. Just I've paid my money, I'm entitled to speak, and I'm like, get the fuck.
Yeah.
People have not paid money to listen to you. We've paid to listen to them.
I remember seeing Bruce Springsteen. He played at Arsenal Stadium, which is just down the road from here where we live, and there was this American guy in front of me, and he was talking at the top of his voice to his mate about anything. It wasn't even about the gig, just about his life. I mean, it's like Bruce Springsteen doing like Thunder Road and Jungle Land. And I said, "Excuse me, man. I said, why do you keep talking all the time?" And he said, "I can't believe you're listening to my conversation." Listen to your conversation. That's the whole point.
I've got no choice.
Yeah.
People, again, I don't know if there's people say after COVID there's a lack of gig etiquette that's kind of changed, or again people with their phones and stuff like that. I mean, I try to sometimes I go down the front of a gig and I'll sit recording bits of it because I put them on my website and I try and share and introduce other people to the music, but it just seems a lot of people just recording it and then it gets
That is
lost.
weird. Yeah, in Japan, it was kind of weird. There was people with like, a light on, like a big
Aye,
light and a huge camera. I thought they sat the entire gig filming it. I thought, this is weird.
aye. And then they're watching it through the screen.
Yeah.
Yeah. So is that quite disconcerting to be? How do you feel about this change in the audiences? Have you noticed it yourself over the years?
Yeah, well, it's a real thing. I think, because it's also they're going to put that on the internet, and it might not sound very good, and it might not look very good, and people are going to go, "I won't bother going to see that gig. I saw it on the internet." It's not. I'm surprised that it's legal, really, but I suppose they can't really stop it.
Yeah, I mean, some artists do actually try and put a block on any of their content going live. I know I went to see Bob Dylan a few years ago, and there's a company that have these envelopes, and everyone's told to go to put them in this envelope and seal it, just to have a mobile free gig.
Yeah,
And I think it was quite a good idea, to be honest with you, because you're there to live in the moment. I mean, I haven't seen many bands in the 90s or whatever. And yeah, we're all in the moment. Nobody was thinking about that, and the crowds were much more. People talk about the Barrowlands crowds, Glasgow Barrowlands, and yeah, back in the day it was epic. Everyone was just jumping, but now it's not what it was. You know what I mean? They've lost the true spirit of rock and roll, I think, through this technology and living in the moment, and but that's the way of the world again. But I just definitely think something's been lost over the years through technology. But I think this technology is a great thing, and obviously recording gigs and watching DVDs of Leonard Cohen live in London, I enjoy them. But when it comes to the audience himself, you're losing a connection that was there in the past. But c'est la vie. So anyway, that's been an hour. We've pinned you to that chair, so thanks very much for that. There's a couple of wee things. So would you like to talk about a couple of your solo songs? There's one I liked, Miracles Start in the Heart. No, it was Humility with Style. That's kind of Humility with Style is like, again, the social media people virtue signaling.
Yeah, well, I saw that expression. It was like it was in East London, and there was a shop, and it sold like religious, like it was a Muslim clothes shop, and it had one brand of clothes, and it said "For humility with style," and I was like laughing, and also, surely it's like humility or style, isn't it? Not with style.
Yeah,
One or the other. And it stuck in my mind, this title. I had it. I thought, well, I've got to write a song called Humility with Style one day. And I just never quite knew how to write it. But, you see this now, like you say about the internet. People are just virtue signaling all the time. It's constant, non-stop, performative kind of virtue signaling, grandstanding, all this stuff. It's tiresome and it's so hypocritical, and it's comical how the lack of self-awareness that people have. They don't see the double standards that they're spewing out there. And so that in that song, like in the middle of it, I said, "Oh, you're very good, like a modern Robin Hood, speaking for the poor and needy. You should get a prize for pointing out the lies of the powerful, rich and greedy." I'm sort of, it makes me laugh, because it's a thing. It's a big thing of the world we live in, and so that song's about that.
Yeah, again, I think it's people's egos these days they've been given social media, and it's just they feel like they need to, pontificate instead of again looking at themselves.
Yeah, it's exactly that same thing again. Yeah, it's that all sort of look out there at the bad thing.
Yeah, I've done quite a few shows called Shooting the Shit where I would rant quite a lot about different things and try to educate people and encourage them to go away and do their own research and say, don't listen to me. I'm just a mad guy who's read shit over the years. But I always try to encourage people to improve themselves and go away and think for themselves, basically. And
yeah, well, it's hard for people to think that for themselves when they've been so conditioned to not do that.
Exactly, yeah. So, would you like to talk us briefly before you go about your actual albums? And when was the last one you made? Was it the one Was it While the Kingdom Crumbles?
Well, the Kingdom Crumbles. I did that during lockdown because looking around and it was when the old BLM thing was going off, and then the COVID thing was just mad, And yeah, so I'm going to turn this. I don't know if you can hear that. Some keeps pinging.
I thought it was me. I was in.
Get rid of it. So while the kingdom crumbles, there was just this feeling of everything like the world looked like it was ending. It's all these fires and watching the internet of Minneapolis burning down and Chinese people dying of so-called COVID.
Yeah.
And you think, what is going on? So that came out of that, and those songs I did by using musicians from all over the world. A lot of them in Nashville, sending files to and from me and stuff. And so it was very different than the other ones, which were all done live. But because of the situation, that was the only way you could make a record.
Right. Was that your last one?
That was my last album. But this year I've done 3 singles, and I've got this new one, I'm Not a Robot, coming out in 2 weeks. I've also recorded a 5th one. Because instead of making an album and then releasing it, I'm just doing song by song by song. Because of the nature of the music world, people don't buy albums, and rather than taking 2 years to collect a load of songs and then put it out and it'd be forgotten next week, I just keep doing this. It's just a very different way of doing it.
Yeah, I'm actually interviewing somebody else today called Mike Williams, and he is a researcher. He talks a lot about the Beatles and stuff like that, but basically he makes albums, and that's how he's been doing his last 2 albums. He just does it like that. So then he does get an album eventually and calls it an album, but he releases the songs as he's writing and recording them.
Yeah, it's called, the term for it is waterfalling.
All right.
Waterfall release, where you just release one after another and after another rather than an album.
Yeah, so they will be on Spotify singly, and then you will group them as an album, but you don't release CDs now, is that right?
No.
What about vinyl? Some people are into the vinyl.
Well, we did on the Fairground album. We didn't actually order enough because by the time the album came out and it actually sold out on pre-sale, so we went on tour and we didn't have any vinyl.
Right.
So it's very frustrating when we could have actually sold it.
Yeah.
We got the vinyl come in late, so that's on our internet, but we're not there promoting it. So that was a bit of bad organisation in terms of releasing the record. We should have ordered more. But that was, when you got an audience, and I think it was an event like that, our second album, and I think people they did want the vinyl and they bought it, but there's a limited amount of people who want it. So you've just got to cater to the limited people, but there's no point in making thousands of things for people who just don't want the things.
Yeah, you don't want to overspend and then have a big warehouse full of albums.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's done that. I certainly have, and there was a point I thought I've just got bucket loads of this stuff and don't know what to do with it, so don't do it now.
Yeah, I have to ask before you go. New Fairground Attraction album. Did you write more songs for Eddie, or do they use the songs for you now? Have you got any plans for that in the future?
So I don't understand. The current one, the Beautiful Happening album.
No, will there be another Fairground Attraction? Do you see that happening again?
We didn't really manage. We didn't sort of think, let's get the band back to forever.
Yeah.
We just sort of started talking to each other again and thought it would be good to do a gig. And then that gig became a Japanese tour. And then I thought, well, if we're doing a Japanese tour, we better do a London gig. So if we're going to do a London gig, we better do a Glasgow gig. And then we might as well do a tour. If we're going to do a tour, we better do an album. So it just grew and grew and grew, and took us all by surprise how much we did. It was never the initial plan. So already we've done much more than we thought. What happens in the future, I've absolutely no idea. There's no plans to do anything. We might never do anything again. Who knows? We just no idea.
If the universe decides it's right, then you'll go with it and let that be the deciding factor.
Yeah.
That's cool. Thanks very much for your time, Mark. If you just hang on, I'll say goodbye to you off camera, but thanks again for your time. And you've got a website. Is it just marknevin.com?
marknevin.com, but please follow me on YouTube and Spotify and X and Facebook and Instagram. All of those, just put my name in, but particularly on YouTube.
I think if you go to your website, you've got links there with the icons. People can find all your stuff there.
Yeah, because I'm doing, each single I'm doing a new video, and we're just about to do one for I'm Not a Robot, and we've made this robot,
All right.
which has been good fun actually. So yeah, so subscribe on YouTube, and you'll get the robot.
What's your video you made in Rio de Janeiro for one of your singles?
Yeah, Shining on the Hill, the first one, because
Yeah.
after the band finished the tour last year, we were a bit like, this. And my wife had been very ill last year, and so I thought, let's do something bonkers and do a holiday of our life, a dream. So we went to Brazil and Argentina, and
Right.
while we were there, my son Stan is very good with his camera, so he filmed us that video there.
Yeah, it's also a great video with Dolly Said No to Elvis, the kind of animated one.
Yeah, that's a woman, Heather Colbert. She's an animator. In fact, she worked on a Spark Cell video of Edith Piaf. Do you know that song?
Yeah.
Edith Piaf one that they did, and I went to see them because I'm on the same publishers. I'm on BMG Publishing, the same as Spark. So I met Ron Mail.
Right.
I met the guy who made the Edith Piaf video, which was brilliant. And I said,
Yeah.
"Do you know anybody else who's doing your animated stuff who would like to do a video for me?" And he introduced me to Heather, who was his sort of junior sort of animator.
Right.
So she did that fantastic video, Dolly.
Yeah. It's really entertaining, that one.
Yes, it's very good, yeah.
Aye. Okay, man, thanks again for your time. Thanks everyone else for watching. I'm back today at 3 o'clock with Mike Williams, so tune in for that one. It's bound to be another interesting couple of hours with Mike. So anyway, cheers now. Check Mark out, marknevin.com. Thank you. And we'll play you out with the wee outro here. Once I find the right button.